The Santiago Bernabeu, Madrid. 81,000 seats, one of the most commercially valuable sporting venues on the surface of the earth. And the man standing in the center circle is earning a reported €150 million signing bonus, paid over 5 years, from the most historically dominant football club in the world. He grew up in Bondy, a suburb of Paris, where the average household income sits below the French national median. And between those two addresses, he built an investment empire that analysts are already comparing not to other footballers, but to tech founders. European football has made more black men millionaires than almost any institution on the continent in the last 40 years. It has also taken most of that money back through bad agents, worse investments, and a culture that mistakes spending for status. But a generation of black European footballers has been doing something categorically different. They have not been consuming the wealth the game produced. They have been using it to purchase the systems that produced it. Today, we are breaking down the financial empires behind the rich black European football players that broke the rules of wealth. 3 men, 3 countries, 3 completely different strategies, and a combined impact that is permanently reshaping what European football money is allowed to build. Stay locked in until our number 1, because we are breaking down how one footballer from a Parisian suburb didn't just sign the most lucrative contract in Real Madrid's history. He founded a private equity firm, acquired an 80% ownership stake in a professional football club, partnered with the NBA commissioner to produce cross-sport content, and built a portfolio of 6 investment positions across digital health, blockchain, electronics, and media, all before turning 27. And the most important part of that story is not the money he made. It is what he refused to do with it. 3 empires, 3 blueprints, each one more unexpected than the last. Starting with number 3. Number 3, Didier Drogba. The man who used a Pepsi deal to build a hospital and a gold mine. If you have ever been separated from your parents as a child because of money, sent to live with relatives because the economics of family simply did not add up, then you have lived a version of the first chapter of Didier Drogba's life. Born in Abidjan, Côte d'Ivoire in 1978, Drogba was sent to live with his uncle Michel Gober in Paris at the age of 5. His uncle was a professional footballer, which gave young Didier his first education in how the sport worked from the inside. The family financial situation meant he moved between France and Côte d'Ivoire multiple times throughout childhood. He did not have stability, he had adaptability, and he turned that adaptability into the defining characteristic of a career that made him the most iconic African footballer in the history of the Premier League. Didier Drogba's footballing career generated an estimated $120 million across contracts and endorsements. He earned $15 million annually at peak Chelsea, making him one of the highest-paid strikers in the world. He won 4 Premier League titles, 4 FA Cups, and delivered the most important goals in Chelsea's entire history, including the equalizer and the winning penalty in the 2012 UEFA Champions League final in Munich against Bayern Munich in their own stadium. But the financial story that defines Drogba's post-football life is not the contracts. It is the 5% stake he acquired in the ETO'O gold mine in Côte d'Ivoire, a position that generates an estimated $5 to $6 million annually in passive income. And the decision that led him there begins with a brand deal and a hospital. In 2009, Didier Drogba signed a brand endorsement deal with Pepsi worth £3 million. He donated the entire fee to fund the construction of a hospital in his hometown of Abidjan. Chelsea Football Club moved by the act, donated their own licensing fee from the same campaign. The hospital was built. And what happened next is the financial concept at the core of Drogba's off-field empire. It is called philanthropic reputation compounding, the strategic use of high-visibility charitable acts to build the kind of global moral authority that opens commercial and institutional doors that contract money alone cannot unlock. The United Nations appointed him a goodwill ambassador. That status gave him access to heads of state, sovereign wealth conversations, and investment networks across Africa and Europe that are structurally closed to people without that credibility. In 2013, he used those networks to acquire a 5% stake in the IT gold mine in Ivory Coast, one of West Africa's most productive gold operations. He also owns a coffee brand sourced directly from Ivorian farmers, holds real estate in London, Abidjan, and Dubai, co-owns Phoenix Rising FC in the United States, and has entered the E1 series electric boat racing as Team Drogba. Every asset traces back in some form to the credibility that hospital purchase built. The reward for 3 decades of strategic credibility building, a property portfolio across London, Abidjan, and Dubai, a gold mine stake that generates millions annually without requiring a single training session, a son, Isaac, playing professional football and carrying the family's connection to the game into the next generation, and an address book that includes heads of state, continental football governance figures, and institutional investors across 3 continents, because a man who donates his entire Pepsi fee to build a hospital in his hometown earns a kind of trust that no amount of marketing spend can manufacture. That is the Drogba blueprint, not the loudest empire on this list, the most credible one. Number 2. Samuel Eto'O. The man who turned football wages into a continental infrastructure play. If you have ever sold something on a street corner as a child because the household needed the money, if you have ever understood at an age when most children are playing that commerce is not optional, it is survival, then you have lived the opening chapter of Samuel Eto'O's story. Born in Douala, Cameroon in 1981, Eto'O sold groundnuts on the streets of his neighborhood as a boy to contribute to the family income. He was spotted by a Real Madrid scout at 15 and signed for the club's B team at 16, becoming one of the youngest African players ever contracted by a Spanish giant. He went on to become the most decorated African footballer in history, and he used that platform to build something almost no footballer from his continent had built before him, a private equity operation targeting African infrastructure. Samuel Eto'O holds a record 4 African Player of the Year awards. He won the UEFA Champions League with Barcelona in 2006 and 2009, and with Inter Milan in 2010, the only player to have won the competition with 2 different clubs in consecutive seasons. In 2011, he signed with Russian club Anzhi Makhachkala for a reported $20 million per year, making him the highest-paid footballer in the world at that moment, at a time when that salary level was genuinely unprecedented for a black African player. Across his career, Eto'O earned in excess of $100 million in salaries and endorsements. He then deployed a meaningful portion of that capital into something that almost no European footballer of any background had attempted: direct investment in African continental development. The financial concept Samuel Eto'O has been executing since retirement is called continental brand-anchored investment, the use of a globally recognized personal identity built in Europe's elite football leagues to command institutional credibility across African markets where that identity carries sovereign-level weight. When ETO'O invests in a Cameroonian real estate development, it is not a celebrity vanity project. It is an anchor investment that attracts co-investors who would not have entered the deal without his involvement. When he ran for and won the presidency of FECAFOOT, the Cameroonian Football Federation, he was not pursuing a ceremonial role. He was acquiring governance authority over the commercial infrastructure of football in a country of 30 million people, with direct implications for how sponsorship, broadcasting, and development money flows through the sport he built his wealth inside. He is using European football credibility as leverage inside African institutional structures, and he has been doing it systematically since the day he retired. The reward for 4 African Player of the Year awards, 3 Champions League titles, and 2 decades of strategic brand management, a foundation operating across 22 countries, governance authority over Cameroonian football, real estate and hospitality investments on 2 continents, and a cultural status in Cameroon so permanent that his name functions not just as a brand, but as a national institution. Samuel ETO'O did not just play European football. He used it as a training ground for the larger game he was always preparing for, using African resources, African relationships, and African credibility to build on the continent that built him. Number 1. Kylian Mbappé. The 26-year-old who built a private equity firm while playing for the most watched club on earth, Bondy, Seine-Saint-Denis. If you know Paris well, you know that the Seine-Saint-Denis département is not the Paris of the Eiffel Tower and the Champs-Élysées. It is the Paris of immigration, overcrowded schools, youth unemployment, and football pitches that become the only infrastructure that consistently works for the children who grow up there. Kylian Mbappé Lotin was born in Bondy on December 20th, 1998, to a Cameroonian father who had played professional football and an Algerian Kabyle mother who had been a professional handball player. Both parents were athletes who had navigated professional sports contracts. Both parents understood the machinery of sports commerce from the participant's perspective. From the day Kylian could walk, he was being raised not just to play the game, but to understand the business of it. In 2017, Kylian Mbappé transferred from AS Monaco to Paris Saint-Germain for 180 million euros, making him the most expensive teenager in the history of football. In 2024, he joined Real Madrid on a contract that includes a reported 150 million euro signing bonus paid over 5 years, making his total compensation one of the largest in the sport's history. His net worth in 2025 is estimated at $250 million. But what separates Mbappé's financial story from every other player on this list, and from almost every other athlete on earth, is what he built in parallel to the contracts. In 2020, he founded Zebra Valley, a content production company that secured a multi-year global partnership with the NBA. In 2022, he founded Interconnected Ventures, a private equity firm whose investment arm, Coalition Capital, now holds 6 active portfolio positions, an 80% majority stake in SM Can, a minority position in Sorare, the blockchain-based fantasy sports platform valued at $4.3 billion, a stake in Low Electronics, a position in Alan, a French digital health insurer recently valued at 5 billion euros, co-founding roles in Zebra Valley and KM Influence, an athlete image rights management company, and a stake in France's Sail GP team. He is 27 years old. His Real Madrid contract runs until 2029. The financial concept Mbappé is deploying is called image rights anchored private equity. a model where the player's personal commercial identity is treated not as a salary supplement, but as the primary investment instrument, used to secure equity positions in companies that gain measurable commercial value from the association. His family management structure, led by his mother Faiza, who manages his career and image rights directly, filters every commercial deal through a single question. Does this build long-term brand equity or extract short-term cash at the cost of positioning? That discipline is why Mbappé has almost no traditional consumer endorsements that do not also carry an equity component. Nike, Hublot, these are category anchor deals that reinforce brand positioning. Everything else is structured as investment, and the SM Khan ownership, despite its troubled first year, 3 managers, relegation pressure, supporter protests, is not a vanity project. It is a long-horizon bet on French football infrastructure by a man who nearly signed for Caen as a 13-year-old before their relegation scuppered the deal. The emotional connection is real. The commercial logic underneath it is equally real. League One promotion would multiply the asset's value. The blueprint is patient capital on a personally meaningful asset. That is not a mistake. That is a calculated risk that most 27-year-olds do not have the resources or the patience to take. The life that $250 million, a private equity firm, and the most commercially valuable contract in European football currently produces, a primary residence in Madrid inside one of Europe's most exclusive residential addresses, content partnerships with the NBA that position him in global media infrastructure alongside the most commercially sophisticated sports league on earth, club ownership at 25 with all the friction and credibility that comes with it, and an investment firm that, if even 2 of its 6 portfolio positions perform at the level of Ferrari's current valuation, will generate returns that exceed every football contract he has ever signed. The most significant line in Mbappé's financial story is not the €150 million signing bonus. It is this: analysts are no longer comparing him to other footballers. They are comparing him to technology founders and media executives. He is 27. He is still playing. And every contract he signs from this point forward is not his income. It is his next investment vehicle. The immediate action. 3 men, 3 countries, 3 completely different generations of the same understanding that European football was never the destination. It was always the funding mechanism. Drogba donated a brand deal to build a hospital, then used the credibility that built to acquire a gold mine that pays him millions every year in perpetuity. ETO'O turned 4 African Player of the Year awards into governance authority over Cameroonian football and a foundation running across 22 countries. And Mbappé is using the most valuable contract in European football history as the platform for a private equity firm that analysts are already comparing to tech founders. So tell us in the comments which blueprint hit hardest. Drogba's philanthropic reputation compounding, turning a Pepsi fee into a gold mine stake, ETO'O's continental infrastructure play using European credibility to build inside African institutional structures, or Mbappé's image rights private equity model at 27, 6 portfolio positions, still playing. Drop it below right now.